It all began when the stars aligned, and Earth found itself at the mercy of an alien race unlike any the galaxy had seen before. The Zarathar Collective, an advanced alien empire known for its ruthless conquests, had set its sights on the entire solar system. Their goal was simple: take control of Earth and its resources, make it part of their growing empire, and enslave humanity, just like they had done to countless other worlds. But what the Zarathar Collective didn't anticipate was one thing: the unyielding spirit of humanity. The first sign that something was wrong came during a routine defense scan of Earth's solar system. The radar systems detected something massive, too massive to ignore. A fleet, unlike any the world's defense agencies had ever seen, was heading straight for Earth. The fleet was vast, stretching across the heavens like a wall of darkness. Its ships were enormous, their shapes sleek and alien, their weapons shimmering with deadly promise. This was no ordinary invasion, this was a full-scale attack. As Earth's defense systems scrambled to respond, a sense of unease filled the air. The military leaders on Earth, from the president to the top generals, were all in the command center, anxiously watching the monitors as the alien fleet grew closer. They knew that the planet's fate hung in the balance. The weapon systems were ready, but there was a gnawing feeling in the pit of everyone's stomach. Could Earth's defenses withstand this overwhelming assault? The military had tried to prepare for a day like this, but nothing could have prepared them for the scale of the threat now barreling toward them. In the midst of the growing panic, a calm voice cut through the tension. Major Elijah Bonner, one of Earth's most respected military leaders, stood up. His reputation was built on tactical brilliance, and his leadership had seen humanity through countless crises. His voice carried the weight of experience as he spoke, his eyes never leaving the screens. "Activate the drones," he ordered. Bonner's orders were swift and decisive. As the alien ships neared Earth, his fleet of AI-controlled drones, high-tech machines capable of making decisions faster than any human could, flickered to life. These drones were armed with cutting-edge weaponry, cloaking devices, and the ability to adapt to any enemy tactics. Bonner had designed them himself, knowing that Earth's military would need an advantage in the coming war. At first, the Zarathar fleet took little notice of Earth's drones. They had never encountered anything quite like them before. They assumed it was just a minor inconvenience, something to be brushed aside easily. The alien commanders, who had conquered hundreds of planets, saw humans as primitive and their technology as laughable. "Let them throw their toys at us," one of the alien leaders, Commander Zorath, said with a dismissive laugh. "We will crush them like all the others." But what the Zarathar Collective didn't realize was that humanity's strength didn't lie in raw power, it lay in its creativity, resilience, and ability to think outside the box. The drones, despite their seemingly simple appearance, were designed with the latest human innovations, cloaking technology that made them nearly invisible to enemy sensors, weapons capable of altering gravity, and AI systems that learned and adapted mid-combat. What the Zarathar Collective saw as an insignificant resistance was actually the beginning of their biggest challenge. The first drone strike hit with precision, taking out one of the alien scout ships before they could even register what happened. The alien fleet was stunned. They had never seen anything move that quickly, never experienced an enemy so fast to adapt. The once confident Zarathar commanders scrambled to respond, but their pride had made them underestimate humanity's ingenuity. As the alien ships retaliated, Bonner stood in the command center, watching the battle unfold. His face was calm, but inside, his heart raced. He knew the stakes. This wasn't just about defending Earth, this was about proving to the entire galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. His drones, though technologically superior, were not invincible. But for the first time in the invasion, Earth had the upper hand. The aliens didn't know how to respond. A new level of suspense filled the air as Earth's defense systems fought back. Every move, every decision carried unimaginable weight. The battle in space intensified as drone after drone clashed with the alien fleet, each side learning from the other, adjusting strategies, and countering moves. For the first time in the war, the invaders were not winning. Earth's military forces, though limited in numbers, were holding their own. But just as the alien forces began to regroup and reorganize, something unexpected happened. Major Bonner, in the heat of the battle, made a daring move. He ordered his remaining fleet of drones to push further into the alien formation, setting a trap. The drones, now fully engaged, drew the alien ships into a tighter formation. Bonner's fleet had one final weapon, an experimental gravity bomb capable of altering the gravitational pull of an entire region of space. If detonated, it would pull every enemy ship into a concentrated field, rendering them helpless. Bonner's hands shook as he gave the command, knowing the risks. But he had no choice, Earth's survival depended on this moment. The gravity bomb was launched, and within seconds, the field of alien ships was caught in its grip. Ships that were once soaring through the vacuum of space were suddenly pulled together like metal filings to a magnet. Chaos erupted as the ships collided, sparks flying, explosions tearing through the alien fleet. It was a moment of victory, but it came at a cost. The bomb had drained nearly all of Earth's remaining energy, and the drones were nearly depleted. Bonner knew that the aliens would regroup and come back with a vengeance. The first battle had been won, but it was just the beginning. The Zarathar collective might have been caught off guard, but they were relentless. They would return, stronger and more determined than ever. Yet, for the first time, humanity had sent a message: we are not weak. We are not helpless. And we will fight back. The aliens had underestimated Earth, but that was a mistake they would never make again. As the first part of the battle ended, Major Bonner stood tall, his face hard and determined. His eyes, though filled with the weight of the struggle ahead, sparkled with the fire of hope. Earth had defied expectations. And this was just the beginning. The stage was set for the fight of a lifetime. A fight that would take humanity to the edges of the galaxy, against an enemy that had believed itself invincible. The Zarathar collective had made one fatal mistake: they had underestimated humans. And now, humanity was ready to show them the true meaning of defiance. The first victory had been hard-earned. Major Elijah Bonner and his drone fleet had struck a blow against the Zarathar collective, but they knew the battle was far from over. In fact, that initial victory had only revealed how much the aliens had underestimated humanity. The Zarathar fleet, now fully aware of Earth's capabilities, began to regroup and form a more calculated attack strategy. They were not a race that would fall so easily. But what the Zarathar collective failed to realize was that they had barely scratched the surface of what humanity was capable of. The sheer ingenuity of human technology, the ability to adapt and evolve, had always been humanity's hidden strength. And now, with the eyes of the galaxy upon them, Earth was about to show the full extent of that power. The military leaders back on Earth were working around the clock, preparing for the inevitable retaliation from the Zarathar collective. The top commanders knew that a single, decisive strike was needed to even the odds. Earth's limited resources and small fleet of ships had proven to be effective, but they needed more advanced weapons to ensure humanity's survival. And that's when they rolled out their most powerful technologies: cloaking devices, AI drones, and gravity manipulation weapons. These were no ordinary weapons. The cloaking devices made Earth's ships and drones nearly invisible to the alien sensors. The AI drones were capable of real-time strategic decisions, faster than any human could, and they were equipped with weapons that the Zarathar collective had never even dreamed of. But the most terrifying weapon of all was the gravity manipulation technology. This device could alter the very gravitational pull of nearby objects, causing massive destruction to enemy ships and even bending the laws of physics to Earth's advantage. As the Zarathar fleet approached Earth for their next assault, they were confident. They had made adjustments to their tactics and were ready to overwhelm the human forces. What they didn't anticipate was that Earth had prepared a trap that would catch them completely off guard. Major Bonner, leading his fleet from the command center, was well aware of the odds stacked against him. His heart raced as the enemy fleet drew closer, but his mind remained focused. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The battle for Earth's survival was about to take a turn. "Prepare for cloaking," Bonner ordered. His voice was calm but filled with an intensity that only came from the weight of the situation. The moment the command was given, Earth's fleet of ships and drones vanished from the enemy's radar. The aliens, once confident in their superior technology, were now left in the dark. The massive fleet, which had previously seemed invincible, was now surrounded by the unseen. The human fleet struck like ghosts in the night. Earth's drones, now invisible to the Zarathar fleet, began to pick off the alien ships one by one. The Zarathar commanders were frantic, ordering their ships to fire blindly into the darkness, but it was too late. The human drones were already taking out vital systems and weaponry, one strike at a time. The speed of the attack was overwhelming. The Zarathar forces, unprepared for such a tactic, were caught in a spiral of confusion and fear. The battle raged on, but Bonner knew that they couldn't keep up the attack forever. The cloaking devices would only work for so long, and soon the aliens would adapt. That's when the gravity manipulation technology came into play. With a precise command, Bonner activated the gravity manipulation weapon. The effects were instantaneous. The alien ships, which had been sailing through space with ease, were suddenly caught in a crushing gravitational pull. The ships began to veer off course, their systems malfunctioning as they struggled to fight the unnatural force pulling them inward. It was as though the very fabric of space had twisted against them. But this was only the beginning. As Bonner's drones continued their assault, the alien forces began to panic. Their ships were disoriented, trapped in the pull of gravity wells created by the humans. It was a tactical advantage they had never considered. Humanity had weaponized the very laws of nature, and now the aliens were paying the price. In the chaos of the battle, there was an emotional shift on the ground. As the drones and ships continued their assault, Bonner's soldiers on Earth prepared for the inevitable ground conflict. The aliens had yet to launch their full-scale invasion on the planet's surface, but it was only a matter of time before they would try. Among Bonner's soldiers, there were faces filled with both fear and determination. Some were rookies, thrown into the chaos of war for the first time. Others had been through battles before, but none had ever faced an enemy like the Zarathar collective. These men and women knew the stakes. Their families, their homes, their very planet were at risk. They had to succeed. As the first alien strike forces began landing on Earth's surface, Major Bonner and his soldiers were ready. They moved with precision, using guerrilla tactics to strike the alien invaders where they were most vulnerable. The soldiers were outnumbered, but they fought like lions, using their knowledge of the terrain and their advanced weapons to turn the tide. In one of the most intense moments of the battle, Bonner's team faced a group of elite Zarathar soldiers. These were the aliens' best warriors, enhanced with technology that made them faster and stronger than any human. The battle was fierce, with both sides taking heavy casualties. One of Bonner's closest soldiers, Sergeant James O'Connor, was hit by a burst of alien fire. His body was torn apart, but in his final moments, he managed to take down one of the alien soldiers. Bonner's eyes hardened as he watched his friend fall. He had known O'Connor for years, and the loss hit him hard. But Bonner's resolve never wavered. This wasn't just a fight for survival, this was a fight for everything they had ever known. He would not let his friend's death be in vain. The battle was long and brutal, but humanity's ingenuity and courage began to show through. The Zarathar fleet, once so confident, was now in disarray. Their ships were damaged, their soldiers were losing ground, and their tactics were no longer working. The tables had turned, and humanity had shown that it could stand tall against an empire that had conquered countless worlds. The emotional weight of the battle hit everyone hard. The loss of soldiers like O'Connor, the constant pressure, the fear of what might come next, it all weighed on Bonner's shoulders. But despite the losses, despite the hardships, humanity was still standing strong. They were not just defending their planet, they were defending their right to exist, to thrive, and to prove that they were not just a species to be trampled upon. As the battle came to a temporary halt, Bonner and his soldiers regrouped. They had taken a major step toward defeating the Zarathar collective, but the war was far from over. The aliens would not give up easily. They would return, stronger and more determined than ever. But Earth had proven something that day: humanity was not to be underestimated. They had hidden strengths, technologies, and a will to fight that no one, not even the Zarathar collective, could match. And the fight for Earth's future was just beginning. The war had escalated quickly. What began as a desperate defense against the Zarathar collective's invasion had now become a fight for humanity's very survival. The aliens, initially surprised by humanity's ability to adapt and fight back, were no longer underestimating Earth's forces. Instead, they were responding with increasing ferocity, deploying more advanced weapons and strategies. But just as the tide seemed to turn in humanity's favor, the Zarathar collective revealed their trump card: a planet-destroying superweapon. Major Elijah Bonner stood on the command deck of the human flagship, staring out at the dark expanse of space. His mind was racing. They had managed to push the Zarathar fleet back, using their superior technology and cunning tactics. But now, as the alien fleet regrouped, Bonner felt a chill run down his spine. The Zarathar collective had been holding something back, something far more terrifying than anything they had faced so far. The communications officer turned to Bonner, her face pale. "Sir, we've detected a massive energy spike coming from the Zarathar fleet. It's unlike anything we've seen before." Bonner's heart skipped a beat. He knew the aliens had advanced technology, but this was different. He quickly turned to the officer. "What are we dealing with? What's the source of that energy?" The officer's voice trembled as she responded. "Sir, it's a weapon. A planet-destroying superweapon. It has the power to annihilate Earth in a single strike. If they fire this, it will be over." A cold silence fell over the bridge. Bonner gritted his teeth, trying to suppress the panic that was creeping in. They had fought so hard, and now, it seemed as if all of their efforts would be in vain. The reality of the situation was sinking in. The Zarathar collective was not playing by the same rules. They were willing to destroy everything to ensure their dominance. "We have no time to waste," Bonner said, his voice steady despite the rising panic inside him. "Prepare the fleet. We need to stop that weapon, now." The plan was set in motion. Bonner and his team mobilized every resource at their disposal to try and disable the alien weapon. But as they worked tirelessly to come up with a strategy, the power of the alien weapon became clear. The energy signature grew larger and more concentrated with every passing minute. They were running out of time. As Bonner stood in the command center, looking over the situation, he could feel the weight of the decision before him. He knew that they were vastly outgunned, and the sheer scale of the alien weapon was something they had never encountered. The weapon had been designed with one purpose: to annihilate planets. And Earth was next on its list. Major Bonner's mind raced through the possible solutions. If they tried to destroy the weapon directly, it would require precision strikes that would have to penetrate the alien defenses. But the weapon was heavily guarded, and the alien fleet was far stronger than their own. Time was slipping away. That's when the unexpected happened. A new communication channel opened up. Bonner's eyes widened in surprise as a garbled transmission came through. It was from an unknown source. The voice on the other end was not human. "Major Bonner," the voice crackled. "This is Commander Sarek of the rebel Zarathar forces. We have been watching your fight and we have a proposition for you." Bonner's heart raced. The Zarathar had their own rebels? The thought had never crossed his mind. But the voice continued, and Bonner listened carefully. "We have been in opposition to the Zarathar collective for years," Commander Sarek continued. "We despise what they have become, and we have been looking for an opportunity to strike. That weapon, the one they are preparing to fire, was built with resources that we have had a hand in stealing. If you are willing to work with us, we can give you the codes to disable it." Bonner's mind was spinning. He was torn between disbelief and cautious hope. Could this be a trap? But the stakes were too high. Earth's survival depended on stopping the weapon, and the rebels might be their only chance. He took a deep breath, trying to keep his voice steady. "Why should we trust you?" Bonner asked. There was a pause, and then the reply came, clear and resolute. "Because the Zarathar Collective doesn't care about anything but control. They will destroy your world, just like they've destroyed countless others. But we want freedom. And if you can defeat them, it will benefit all of us. We'll help you stop the weapon." Bonner exchanged glances with his team. The decision weighed heavily on him, but there was no time to waste. The weapon was almost ready to fire, and the fate of the planet hung in the balance. He made up his mind. "All right," he said, his voice firm. "We'll work with you. But if this is a trap, we will take you down with the Zarathar." The transmission ended, and the rebel forces' coordinates appeared on Bonner's screen. They were far from Earth, in the heart of the Zarathar fleet. If Bonner and his team could make it there in time, they might have a shot at stopping the weapon. But it would mean venturing deep into enemy territory, where every moment would be a risk. If they were caught, the entire mission would be lost. The stakes had never been higher. "Prepare the fleet," Bonner ordered. "We move out in 30 minutes. The humans and their new allies, rebels from within the Zarathar Collective, set off toward the heart of the alien fleet, their mission clear but fraught with danger. As the fleet sped through space, Bonner's thoughts were consumed with the gravity of the situation. If they didn't succeed, Earth would be destroyed, and humanity would be wiped from the galaxy. And even if they did succeed, the consequences of working with the rebels were unknown. As they neared the enemy fleet, the tension was palpable. The closer they got to the superweapon, the more perilous their mission became. The entire alien fleet would be on high alert, and the humans were outnumbered. The only advantage they had was the surprise factor. The Zarathar had no idea that Earth had forged an alliance with their enemies. The rebel forces led Bonner's team through the maze of alien ships, and soon, they reached the core of the enemy's fleet. But just as they were about to breach the final defenses, an alarm went off. The weapon was charging. "Move, move, move." Bonner shouted as his team charged forward, weapons ready. They had no choice now. It was do or die. But as they fought their way through the alien defenses, Bonner's thoughts flashed back to everything they had sacrificed to get here. The loss of soldiers, the constant battles, the fear of losing it all. He knew this was their last chance. The fate of Earth, and humanity itself, hung in the balance. The alliance between the human forces and the alien rebels had created a new kind of desperation, a strange mix of hope and fear. Together, they formed the only resistance against the Zarathar Collective's ultimate weapon, a device capable of erasing Earth from existence. But now, with time running out, the pressure was mounting. The superweapon had almost fully charged, and every passing second was one closer to Earth's total annihilation. Major Elijah Bonner stood at the forefront of the operations, looking out over the battleground. The alien fleet was massive, with hundreds of ships stationed in tight formations around their superweapon. Earth's military had always been strong, but this was a whole different level of war, a war against an empire that had mastered the art of destruction. "Major, the infiltration team is ready," said Commander Sarek, his voice calm despite the chaos around them. "The rebels have their best operatives on standby. They're prepared to breach the outer defenses of the Zarathar fleet." Bonner nodded, his face grim. He had always known that this day would come, the day humanity would have to put everything on the line. But even now, with the stakes higher than ever, there was no turning back. He couldn't help but feel a deep sense of responsibility for every life that had been lost to get to this point. The soldiers, the engineers, the civilians, Each one had given everything to stand up against the alien threat. And now, it was up to a few brave individuals to make the ultimate sacrifice. "Let's make it count," Bonner replied, his voice steady but filled with determination. The mission was set. Earth's best scientists and engineers had spent the past few days analyzing the superweapon and its defenses. With the rebel forces inside knowledge, they had devised a risky plan, one that involved infiltrating the heart of the Zarathar fleet and planting a series of devices that could disable the superweapon. But it wasn't going to be easy. The alien fleet was heavily armed and fully alert. If they were detected before they reached the weapon, there would be no chance of success. The infiltration team consisted of some of the most skilled operatives, including Earth's best covert agents and rebel warriors. They had one chance. If they failed, the entire human race would be wiped out in an instant. The team, led by Captain Naomi Harris, had boarded one of Earth's stealth ships, a highly advanced vessel equipped with cloaking technology. It was the only way they could get close to the alien fleet without being detected. As they neared the Zarathar ships, the tension on the ship was palpable. Everyone knew that the smallest mistake could lead to disaster. 5 minutes to target, said Lieutenant Oliver, his voice barely a whisper. Naomi stood at the head of the team, looking out into the void. She had always been calm under pressure, but even she could feel the weight of this mission bearing down on her. The fate of her people, and of the entire planet, was in her hands. If they couldn't disable the weapon, the Earth would fall, and humanity's legacy would end here, today. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. A warning light flashed red across the control panel. "They've detected us," Lieutenant Oliver said in alarm. Naomi's heart raced. "Get us in position, now. We don't have time to waste." The crew worked swiftly, using every trick in the book to stay hidden from the alien ships. The cloaking device flickered, and the ship became nearly invisible to the naked eye. But Naomi knew they had little time left before the alien fleet would begin scanning more thoroughly. Preparing for landing, the ship's pilot announced. They were getting closer. Naomi looked back at her team. Each one of them was prepared for the worst. There was no turning back. If they were caught, the chances of survival were slim. But if they succeeded, they would strike a blow that would cripple the Zarathar collective and stop their superweapon from destroying Earth. The ship silently passed through the outer defenses and landed just outside the massive energy core that powered the superweapon. The team immediately disembarked, weapons drawn, as they moved stealthily through the alien corridors. The hulls of the Zarathar fleet were vast and eerily quiet, and the team was on high alert. The stakes were clear. They had no second chances. "Proceed with caution," Naomi whispered to the team. "We can't afford any mistakes." The team moved swiftly through the alien ship, their steps muffled by the metallic floors. Every corner, every shadow seemed to hide a threat. But they pressed on, their destination clear, the heart of the superweapon. Every step brought them closer to their goal, but also closer to detection. The tension was unbearable. Meanwhile, back on the command deck of Earth's flagship, Major Bonner watched the operation unfold. His thoughts were with the team, knowing that their success was humanity's last hope. But he also knew that the mission was far from guaranteed. The alien fleet was preparing to fire their superweapon, and every moment counted. "Status report," Bonner asked urgently. "Captain Harris's team is approaching the core," the operations officer replied. "But we've detected a significant energy surge from the weapon. They're preparing to activate it." Bonner gritted his teeth. "We can't afford to fail. We need to buy them more time. Launch the orbital bombardment now." The order was given, and Earth's fleet began its bombardment. Ships fired their weapons in perfect synchronization, creating a barrage of explosions that lit up the vastness of space. The goal wasn't to destroy the alien fleet but to create a diversion, something that would keep the enemy's focus on them, not on the infiltration team. As the explosions rocked the battlefield, Captain Harris's team reached the core. But the final defense stood before them, a large energy shield protecting the superweapon's heart. "We have to disable the shield," Naomi said, eyeing the controls. "We've only got one shot." One of the rebel technicians stepped forward, quickly connecting their devices to the alien technology. Sparks flew as the alien systems fought against their efforts, but the technician kept working, his fingers flying over the controls. The shield began to flicker, its energy waning. But just as they were about to succeed, the door to the core chamber slammed shut, trapping them inside. Naomi cursed under her breath. They had been discovered. The team immediately took up defensive positions, ready for the inevitable fight. But the countdown to the weapon's activation had already begun. They had no time to lose. "We've got no choice," Naomi shouted. "Activate the disruptors. We take this down now or we die trying." With a swift motion, the team triggered the devices, sending a wave of energy into the core. The room shook violently as the alien technology responded. The shield collapsed, and the energy of the superweapon began to fluctuate. "Get out of here, now!" Naomi yelled. The team sprinted for the exit, narrowly avoiding an explosion that rocked the chamber. They had done it. The weapon was disabled, at least for now. But as they raced back to their ship, Naomi knew they had bought Earth a little more time. The war was far from over, but humanity's future had just been secured for one more day. The team boarded the stealth ship and made their way back to Earth's fleet, leaving behind the wreckage of the Zarathar superweapon. They had succeeded, but the cost had been high. Several members of the team had fallen during the mission, and their sacrifice would never be forgotten. As the stealth ship disappeared into the vast expanse of space, Major Bonner's voice crackled over the comms. "Mission accomplished. Humanity's future is ours to fight for." It wasn't over yet. But for the first time in days, there was a glimmer of hope. Humanity had taken a stand, and survived. Now, they would fight to ensure that the Zarathar Collective would never threaten Earth again. The battlefield was quiet, too quiet. Earth's forces had managed to disable the alien superweapon, but the cost had been devastating. The Rebel Alliance and human soldiers had fought with unparalleled courage, but their success had come at the cost of great sacrifice. The once hopeful victory now felt bittersweet. The wounds of war were deep, and the emotional toll was visible on every face. Major Elijah Bonner stood alone in a dark corner of the command ship, staring at a holographic display of the battlefield. The wreckage of the Zarathar fleet floated in space, a testament to their hard-won success. But in the quiet aftermath, something was missing. "Captain Juno," Bonner whispered, the name a bitter reminder of the loss. His most trusted soldier, his closest friend, had been killed during the final moments of the infiltration mission. Juno had sacrificed himself to ensure that the team could escape safely, holding off an alien assault long enough for the others to get away. His death was a blow that struck Bonner to his core. Juno had been the heart of their team, the one person who could always be counted on in the worst of times. Losing him was like losing a part of himself. The grief was overwhelming, but Bonner knew he couldn't afford to let it consume him. He had to keep going. His team needed him now more than ever. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his emotions, but the weight of the loss was still too heavy. He could almost feel Juno's presence beside him, offering silent encouragement, urging him to push forward. But Bonner knew that he had to honor Juno's sacrifice, not just with sorrow, but with action. There was no time for mourning, not yet. "Major Bonner, the rebels have finished their reports," said Lieutenant Harris, breaking Bonner out of his thoughts. She stood at the doorway, her face as weary as his, but there was a glimmer of determination in her eyes. "The battle isn't over. The Zarathar leader is preparing his final assault." Bonner nodded, forcing himself to focus. The mission was far from complete. They had disabled the superweapon, but the Zarathar Collective had one final weapon left to deploy. The leader of the Zarathar, High Commander Tharzol, was not one to admit defeat easily. Despite the damage to his fleet, he still had one trump card, a colossal mothership, heavily armored and armed with enough firepower to wipe out the remnants of humanity's forces in a single strike. The mothership was now ready, and it would take everything they had to stop it. The remaining human and rebel forces gathered on the command ship, their faces grim but resolute. They had faced overwhelming odds before, and they were prepared to do so again. But this time, the stakes were higher than ever. It wasn't just the survival of their people at risk, it was the survival of the entire planet. Listen up. Bonner's voice rang out over the comms, commanding immediate attention. We've lost too many good men and women to stop now. Captain Juno would want us to finish what we started. This is our fight, and we're not giving up. We're not letting the Zarathar take Earth. Not today. Not ever. His words, filled with raw emotion and a quiet strength, resonated with the soldiers and rebels. They had seen their comrades fall, but they had also seen their enemies' vulnerability. The Zarathar had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price for their arrogance. Bonner's eyes locked with Lieutenant Harris's. They had lost so much already, but they couldn't afford to lose more. The rebellion had come too far, and humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. We strike now, Bonner said. We take the fight to Tharzul. We show him the full power of humanity. The plan was set. Earth's remaining forces, along with the rebel fighters, would launch a full-scale assault on the Zarathar mothership. They would need to use every weapon, every tactic they had at their disposal. The odds were slim, but Bonner believed in his team. They had already defied expectations. This final mission would be their last chance to end the war. As they prepared for the final assault, Bonner couldn't help but think of the lives that had been lost to get here. Each death had left a mark, a scar that would never fade. But there was no time for regret. The war had to be won. For Juno, for every soldier and rebel who had fallen, and for the future of Earth. The fleet launched into space, moving with precision and speed. The Zarathar mothership loomed ahead, its massive form blocking out the stars. The sheer size of the ship was intimidating, a symbol of the Zarathar's unyielding power. But to Bonner and his team, it was a target. A target they would bring down, no matter the cost. As they approached the mothership, the enemy began to retaliate. The first wave of fire from the mothership's cannons lit up the dark void of space, and Earth's fleet responded in kind. The battle raged on, explosions and laser fire filling the vacuum of space as ships dodged and weaved through the barrage. Major Bonner's ship, the Sovereign, led the charge. He sat in the cockpit, his hands gripping the controls, eyes narrowed with focus. He could feel the pulse of the battle around him. The energy, the fear, the determination, it was all coming together in this final moment. Major, we've breached their outer defenses. Lieutenant Harris shouted. We're clear for the next phase. Bonner gave a sharp nod. Move in. Target the core generators. We take down their power, we take down their ship. As they neared the mothership, Earth's fleet closed in, using the debris from the earlier battles as cover. They had only one shot at this. The core generators were protected by heavy shields, but the rebels had found a weakness, an exposed venting system near the lower hull of the ship. The strike had to be precise. One wrong move, and it could all be over. The fighters split into smaller groups, darting through the chaos of the battle to get into position. Bonner's squad was the first to reach the critical location. They unleashed a torrent of firepower at the exposed venting system. The ship shook violently as the shields began to flicker. All ships, target the venting system. Now! Bonner barked. With one final, synchronized strike, the venting system exploded in a burst of fiery energy. The shields collapsed, and the mothership's core generators were left vulnerable. The remaining forces didn't hesitate. They attacked with everything they had, targeting the generators with precision laser fire and missiles. The ship's core detonated in a massive explosion, sending shockwaves rippling through space. The mothership, once a symbol of the Zarathar's might, was now nothing more than a burning husk. The battle had been won. But the cost was great. As the remnants of the Zarathar fleet scattered, Earth's forces limped back, battered but victorious. The victory, though hard-earned, felt hollow. Too many lives had been lost for this moment to feel like a true triumph. The rebels had fought alongside humanity, but many of them would never return to their homes. Their sacrifice was not in vain, but the pain of their loss was raw. Major Bonner stood on the bridge of the Sovereign, staring out into space. The war was over. The Zarathar collective had been defeated. But the scars of this conflict would remain forever. The loss of Captain Juno and so many others weighed heavily on his heart, but Bonner knew one thing: humanity had proven that it could fight, that it could survive. And no matter what came next, that strength would never be broken. The war had raged on for what felt like an eternity, and Earth had been pushed to the brink. The alien forces, led by the formidable Zarathar collective, had seemed unstoppable, their advanced technology overwhelming humanity's resistance at every turn. But despite the odds, humanity had fought with a ferocity and determination that no one, not even the aliens, could have predicted. Major Elijah Bonner stood at the front of Earth's final assault fleet, staring out into the vastness of space. The alien mothership loomed before them, a dark, menacing shadow in the endless void. Its massive form was bristling with weapons, shields at full power, and all the might the Zarathar had left. Earth's forces had been battered and broken, but this was it, the final stand. "We've come this far," Bonner muttered to himself, his voice barely audible over the comms. "This is our moment. We finish this now." Beside him, Lieutenant Harris nodded grimly. The loss of life had been staggering, and their forces were vastly outnumbered. Yet, in the hearts of every soldier, there was a fierce glimmer of hope. Humanity had fought too long, lost too much, to give up now. The aliens had underestimated them time and time again, but now, they were about to make one last, desperate push. The final push was set to be an all-out attack on the alien mothership. Every available ship, every remaining soldier, every resource would be devoted to this mission. There would be no retreat. There would be no second chances. If they were to survive, Earth's forces would have to destroy the mothership and bring an end to the war. Bonner's team, still reeling from the losses they'd sustained, gathered together one last time. The scars of the battle were etched on every face, but there was no room for fear, no room for doubt. This was their moment to stand, to make their final stand. "Everyone knows the plan," Bonner said, his voice steady, but laced with the weight of everything that had come before. "We fight for Earth. We fight for every soul we've lost. We fight for our future." There was no hesitation. No second-guessing. The soldiers and rebels around him nodded, each one understanding what was at stake. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ensuring that the sacrifices they had made, the lives lost, would mean something. As the fleet moved into position, Bonner looked out at the alien mothership once more. The sight of it, so vast and menacing, could have been enough to break anyone's spirit. It seemed invincible, an unmovable force. But Bonner knew better. He had seen firsthand what humanity could do when faced with impossible odds. It was that spirit, that unyielding will to survive, that had carried them this far. And now, it would carry them to victory. The battle began with a ferocity that could only be described as pure chaos. Earth's fleet launched everything they had at the mothership, unleashing wave after wave of missiles, laser fire, and energy blasts. The alien mothership returned fire with a vengeance, its weapons tearing through the ranks of Earth's ships. The gap between the two forces seemed insurmountable, but still, the humans pushed forward. Bonner's ship, the Sovereign, was at the front of the charge. He felt every explosion, every near miss as if it were happening right inside his own body. The enemy's fire was relentless, but so was their will to fight. The Sovereign dodged, weaved, and returned fire, as Bonner's crew worked in perfect harmony. He could hear the shouts of his team through the comms, their voices filled with adrenaline and determination. "Keep pushing forward," Bonner ordered, his voice cutting through the noise. "We're not stopping now. No matter what." The soldiers in their fighter jets engaged in dogfights with the alien crafts, their ships darting through space like hawks hunting prey. Each pilot was a living embodiment of Earth's defiance. They knew that if they failed, their home would be lost forever. As the battle raged on, Bonner's heart ached for the soldiers who had fallen before this moment. Captain Juno's death, the rebels they had fought beside, each loss had been a dagger to his soul. But there was no time for grief now. This was their last chance. Humanity's last chance. Then came the moment that would change everything. As Bonner and his team closed in on the mothership's central core, they encountered the last line of defense, an impenetrable wall of enemy ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything they had faced before. The sheer size and firepower of the force before them seemed impossible to overcome. The alien mothership, surrounded by its final defenders, felt like an impenetrable fortress. "We're too late," Lieutenant Harris said, her voice trembling with frustration. Bonner shook his head. "No. We're not done yet. This fight is far from over." The human forces regrouped, preparing for one last assault. It was clear that the enemy was starting to lose their grip. The alien mothership had taken significant damage, and its shields were weakening. Earth's forces had to press the advantage before the mothership could retaliate. "All ships, target the main reactor. We disable their power, we end this," Bonner ordered, his voice booming over the comms. With one final, coordinated attack, Earth's ships concentrated all their firepower on the mothership's central reactor. The explosion that followed was cataclysmic. A blinding flash of light erupted, followed by a shockwave that rippled through space, sending debris scattering in all directions. The mothership, once an unstoppable force, was now a smoldering wreck. The alien forces, now leaderless and defeated, began to retreat. Earth's forces pressed on, determined to finish the job. The Zarathar Collective, once the most powerful empire in the galaxy, was crumbling before their eyes. But victory came at a cost. The battle had been brutal, and Earth's forces had lost many good men and women along the way. Major Bonner, battered and bloodied, watched as the last of the alien ships fled into the stars. They had won. Earth had won. But the victory was bittersweet. As the dust settled and the survivors gathered, Bonner couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. The battle had been long and hard, filled with pain and loss. But through it all, humanity had shown its true strength. It wasn't their technology that had won the war. It was their will to fight, their refusal to give up, that had made all the difference. "We did it," Lieutenant Harris said quietly, standing beside Bonner. "Yeah," Bonner replied, his voice hoarse. "We did." And as Earth's forces celebrated their victory, the truth of their triumph became clear. They had proven that no matter how advanced the technology, no matter how powerful the enemy, nothing could break the human spirit. The Zarathar had underestimated humanity, and now they had paid the price. As Earth began to rebuild, Major Bonner knew that the legacy of this battle would live on for generations to come. The victory was not just about defeating an alien empire. It was about ensuring that humanity's place in the galaxy was secure, that future generations would inherit a world free from the threat of tyranny. Humanity had proven itself to be the true force to be reckoned with in the universe.